Turn the mobile off.
Mobile? Good.
Yeah, off. Hello. Good afternoon to you. My name is Pasmank Mehta, and I will be going through on the second episode from what we did last time. Today, the 9th of March. You will note from my previous situation, in our previous talk, I introduced you to myself as Harry. Now today you find that my name is Pasmank Mehta and you are slightly confused. Understandable? But the reason will be very apparent next week when we talk in the episode 3. It will be very apparent and you will think, that's where I am going wrong. I meaning you, the individual. And that will make things a bit more easier for you to understand in terms of horoscope, when sometimes we think life is just not going the way we planned it or the way we want it. What's going wrong? That will come very apparent. Now here today, let me show you what this slide basically, in this term, what happens is that you have seen this chart before, and this chart in itself is the basis of the horoscope. In this chart it explains to you where the stars, where the planets are sitting, and based on where the planets are sitting and what it can do to us. That is what I'm going to be explaining to you. Now, house number one is the primary one. But before we go into the house number one, let me explain that to you as to the basis of what we are talking today. In this house number one, there is an overall view. The general characteristics of an individual are presented within this category. Now that is the bit that says at a glance there. Now in terms of where it says in short, that is the house description of what the house is for. Underneath that is the primary thing which everybody asks me the same question all over again. Am I going to make money? Am I going to win the lottery? Am I going to have funds coming left, right and center and all the way up to there so that I can live a life? And everybody tends to think money can buy everything. Well, take it from me, money is necessary, but it cannot buy everything, but it can cause more frustration and more grievance. Best to let it go. The rich people in town, ask them how much money they have and they don't have a clue. We tend to count every so often. I know a shopkeeper who used to, every time they had a little bit of time, they would look into their till, count the money, put it back again, count the money, put it, even after one customer is gone. Never, ever, ever count your money. That is what that bit about where it says source of income and reason for income is explained in there as we go along. Now, I will explain that as more and more in detail. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Pasmank Mehta on inclusivefm.co.uk. Remember, please tell your friends you like this. Please like it on the Facebook, send a Twitter, like it on YouTube, like it everywhere. I would very much appreciate that. Brings the encouragement that I need, so that this is the episode 1 gone, 2, 3 coming up, and I would like it to keep on going, and I would like to see it reach 100 with your help. And with more people and with more takes, it just keeps me going. Thank you very much for that. Now we go on to the next part of it where it says, where it explains, I will explain to you the house 1. And the house 1 is something very, very useful to everybody. This is the one which tells me the type of body frame that you would have. Even if I haven't met you, I will have the body frame. And the body frame in terms of short, petite, big build, broad shoulders, long face, oblong face, round face, everything. It tells me everything. It tells me about your eyes, the way that you'll be looking at people. In terms of everybody looks, but some people like mine, the upper lid covers part of the pupil, whereas to the other, the bottom bit covers part of the pupil, and so on and so forth. So this is where it tells me all about it. It tells me the characteristics, the basic characteristics, the nature of the person. What kind of a person is he or she? Do I want to associate with them? If not, what is wrong? Why can I not associate with them? And it also tells me roughly the life duration. We will go more into details as to how long you're going to live, most likely. And that is what's being told there. In terms of the finances and the source of income, it tells me the type of circumstances. If this particular type, it tells me in here, in the house 1, is the type of circumstances one is born in. So if you were born in a rich family, your source of income will be predominantly from parental heritage, going into the businesses or going into something that your parents did. Whereas if you're coming from a medium class or somebody who hasn't got much of the finance, the chances are you will then be working for your money. It also tells me, but most of it is normal income, normal day-to-day, your bread and butter income. Where is it going to come from? That's what it tells me. And that is basically in all that house 1 tells me. It's not a lot, but it tells me enough to keep me going to the next one along. And the next one down we can go, and that is house 2. House 2 is wealth, assets, the means. Now you have the means of substances. It is very important. This is the wealth. Everybody wants to talk about it. It tells me about your family. It tells me about the restrictions or the prohibitions that you're going to have. Some people come up to me, especially when I go abroad, and they say, a lot of people, they come up to me and they say, have I got an opportunity to go to England? No, London, that's the whole thing. London they think is a big country, and they said, can I go to London? Well, this tells me whether they can or not. Can I do this? This tells me whether they can or not. And that is what the restrictions here is about. It's not the restrictions that because you're not 18 you can't do this, and because you're not 16 you can't do the other. It's restrictions that are coming up in your life and you feel sometimes frustrated in doing so. Fascination and delusion. All your fascination. What are you fascinated by? And what are your delusions? Those are told to me in this section. Furthermore, we can talk, and then on the other side of the coin here, in the finance side of it, we see that the family, the dependents, and the friends. The family is very important to us. Will we get along with the family? Will we provide for the dependents, or will we depend on the dependents, or will we depend on our parents' incomes, or on our friends' incomes? Are we one of those guys who go around in a group of friends and never dip our hands into the pocket? That tells me that. Any income deriving from this, from your house 2 source, it will be for the reasons of the upkeeps of the dependent, the self-generated income, the job, and the business. What type of monies will come in and where will you spend them? That is what is explained in house 2. Now we go, I'll show you house 3, and after the house 3 I'll take a little break and go into a different subject before we're coming on to this one. And the house 3 is very simple. Your brothers, your sisters, the efforts of your achievements, whether you will succeed, whether you're doing something that you're going along, working your way up, and things just don't work out right at the last minute. I had that sale in my hand. Don't know what happened. I was working at it and things just did not work out the way I had anticipated. Did you come across a situation like that? Many people do. They come up to me. Patience. How is the patience? How do you work on patience is what I will explain as we go along. Some people are not patient. They want things yesterday. And when they want things yesterday, things don't work out. How can they work on it? Pride. It's not the ego. It's not showing off. It is pride in doing what you're doing. No matter how menial it is, you are playing a part in the society. You are doing something good for yourself by keeping yourself occupied. You are not becoming a couch potato. How to avoid becoming a useless person, as many people feel that they sometimes are. That is what is explained there. And the courage that is needed to go out and do what you want to do. Can't be bothered. How many people come up to me and say, yeah, well, you have everything. I just don't get it, so I can't be bothered. No, there's no such thing as I can't be bothered, you know. There is always a way. Every single time. Horoscopes tell me everything. There is always a way. Not favorable every single time. Maybe not something you want to do. But a way there is. Now on the other side, let's look at the other side, and it tells me your relatives, the sources of finances could be coming from your relatives, your friends, your siblings, your neighbors, even the servants or the helpers. They could all be helping you in bringing up an income, which could, this type of money that comes in are usually for daring actions. You want to gamble some, but I don't want to gamble my own money. So I got some money somebody gave me, and I've got to put it to a good use. It's a sure bet. Put down as a deposit or do something with that money, but I want to take that action. I want to take that risk that otherwise I would not be able to do. That's the risky type of person. The activities involved where risk is involved is the bet that is showing me here. Are you adventurous person is what shows me here. You are going to leave. Are you going to leave enough for inheritance for your children? It tells me here. Or are you going to retire a pauper? That tells me here. Now that means out of the 12 of the houses, we've now gone through 3 houses. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to go to the events which I did last week in terms of what this week is happening, and we will take it from there. You will note this week is a wonderful week. Coming up is Mother's Day. Mother's Day is coming up, and that is very, very important. Why is that important? I will explain that to you. There is also the Commonwealth Day. Today is the Commonwealth Day. Today is the day long time ago when businesses between the Commonwealth were encouraged. Today is the day after the Boer War in 1899 to 1902. It used to be called an Empire Day, where people used to gift to the empire. But in Commonwealth, the monarch started to acknowledge everybody around them, and this is the Commonwealth Day. Mother's Day coming up this Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, important, very important, don't forget. The Mother's Day used to be the very simple reason in the olden days when there were servants, when there were young children working in the household, never getting a holiday, never see the daylight, probably left somewhere in the dark rooms to continue working. Don't even know if it's day or night. Those children were allowed once a year to go to their mums, say hello to them. And those children took presents. And some of the worn out clothes, some of the leftovers from the owners or from the people that they worked for, they give them handouts. These handouts, these handovers were taken home for mothers. Nowadays we take presents for mothers, and thank you very much, Mom, for those wonderful things that you gave us, for those wonderful times that you gave us whilst we were young. It's not slavery anymore. Well, in some stages, some cases there is, but let's hope that that gets eradicated very, very quickly. That's what Mother's Day is, this coming Sunday. So those were the events coming up this one. Any one of you, of any religion, any denomination, if there are any events coming up in the coming week, please let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. It's Harry, Hari, at inclusivefm.co.uk. Let me know the events and I will incorporate them within my talk. And I'm sure that lots and lots of people will want to know what is happening around them, what the calendar tells you about your religion and the dates going on. Please let me know. I do my research, but I can't do everything, so I need your help. Please, thank you. Now, in terms of, we take a further step onto that, and now this is very, very important. House number 4. That is now where we're going to go. We're going to revert back to house number 4. At a glance, this tells me all about your mother. Tells me about your property, your land, your peace and your happiness, your behavior, your vehicles, and your compassion. Mother, we all know what we're talking about. Tells me all about whether it's your mom, whether it's your stepmom, whether it's the orphans, and therefore you have been adopted, and it's adopted mother. Any woman who otherwise falls into the category that you would classify as good as, if not equal to your mom. That's what we're talking about here. Whether you're being brought up by a mom or somebody equivalent to that. Property. Now, here the property is the assets that you own. What will you be owning? The lands that you'll be owning or you will not be owning. Why won't you be owning those? What is going to happen? Why did you lose that? That is all explained to me here. Peace and happiness is explained. If you're peace and tranquil, everything else follows. So that is explained to me. Your behavior in terms of, are you arrogant? Are you angry? You can never be angry. Many types of attitudes. Those are explained here. Vehicle. What type of vehicles will you be using? Will you be using your own vehicle, or will you be using one of those provided to you by your employers, let's say? or to a disadvantaged person who is in this country, especially if they are into a disabled category, they get the privilege and they get the facility to own a vehicle by way of a disability vehicle that is a government sponsored vehicle. So whether it's coming from government, it all tells me that. It tells me way long before you ever get to one of those. And the compassion. How compassionate are you? It tells me that. A lot of people say, yes, I do things, but do they? It tells me. Some people just give me lip service, and others actually do it. It's all given. The horoscope tells a lot of things, not just a piece of paper, a piece of things that you read in the paper. Now, in the finance side of it, relatives, your mother, or maternal friends could be an asset to you, so be nice to them. You never know when they will be coming to help you. Where will this kind of money go to? That kind of money goes primarily into large sums of investments. Mom, I want to buy a house, but I haven't got sufficient for my deposit. Don't worry, I'll ask your uncle. Don't worry, I'll ask your friend. Don't worry, we'll get some money from somewhere. That's where this money comes from. And then again, it's the sale off. You might get something like a herd, or if you were a farmer, you get herd, and there's milk as well that you can sell off. Or if you have a property, then you let out the property and therefore gain income from that. You spend money on that. That is what is explained in this particular environment, and that is what house 4 tells me all about. Now, after having gone through house 4, now this house 5, all the triangles that you see has got restrictions, are limited, and house 5 again is the restrictions. Here is the children. Will you have children? Won't you have children? Will they be good? Won't they be good? Your education. Will you study, or will there be break in your studies? I'm studying to be so and so, and all of a sudden I had to give up my studies. How many people do that? Whereas the others are, I've finished studying this now. I think what I'll do is I will carry on and maybe just, instead of bachelor's degree, I'll get a master's degree, and I'll carry on. I'll get a PhD. And so there are those who, on the other hand, want to carry on extreme basis and continue studying. That is what tells me here. Your tone of speech, the way you talk, describes to me the type of person you are. Do I want to be dictative to you? Are you submissive or are you passive? That is by your speech. That explains to me by your speech, the way you talk. Then there is the intelligence. How intelligent you are in terms of common sense. There are people who are well educated, but when it comes to common sense, they lack in that department. Or there are people who are not educated at all, but their common sense is more like a degree level. That's what's told me here. Your thoughts, your attitude towards gambling, and your knowledge all round is all explained in this house number 5. I've added money part of it in every single element of this for a very simple reason, because more often than not, like I said earlier, people want to know what's happening to them financially. The source of income could be from your children, primarily from your sons, or it could be from a saintly, a virtuous gentleman. People sometimes have extra funds but don't know where to hand it out to, and they give it. You might come across one of those guys. I know one like that, and I'm very fortunate for that reason. Thank you very much. But that's where this comes in from. In terms of where you are likely to invest or spend this type of money, is the shares or lottery, speculation, parental property, or even partake in your wife's shares. Your wife received some inheritance, your wife received something, your wife's income is coming on good, you will utilize that. You'd rather be a house husband instead of her being a housewife. There is that possibility. That will tell me if you are a house husband type of a person. So that is all incorporated in that house 5. And the house 6 is in, again, a bottom triangle there. And the house 6 is also bit where it's all to do with your illnesses and your enemies. You don't have any enemies? You don't have any illnesses? Never been to a doctor? That's wonderful. It will tell me whether you're telling the truth. House 6 tells me everything. House 6 tells me the power of the strength, the inspiration that you will receive from within. It tells me about your anger. It tells me whether you lie often or not always tell the truth. Not telling the truth and lying are two different things. Not telling the truth means you're not lying, but you're not clear of what you're going to do. All that is explained here. It tells me everything. Now, is vindicative. Are you a vindictive person? Are you a type of person who turns around and find it very difficult to break a relationship? We see these films and we see these things on television although sometimes where you follow these people. You become a pain. That other person don't want you anywhere near. But because once upon a time, for a few hours, for a few minutes, for a few days, a few weeks, or a few months, you had a friendship, a relationship with that person, you therefore keep pestering them, keep going behind them, keep on and on and on. Are you that type of a person? This will tell me how you can get away from it, how you can move away from that and get a life. There's plenty more people that you can connect with. Like they say, there's plenty of fish. If you don't get one fish, it doesn't matter. Plenty more friends. Just don't follow one and the one and the one. Hard work. You guys will be hard working. This tells me how much of a hard work you do or how much you don't do. Some people get very easily. Some people get money very easily. They feel they're working hard. On the other hand, some people work very, very hard but hardly earn enough money, hardly earn enough prestige, hardly earn enough pride, hardly earn anything to show for it. Jealousy. Are you a jealous type of person? I spoke about that earlier on the vindictive, but this is slightly different to that. This jealousy here that we're talking about is they've got television, they've got a flat screen television, why haven't we? They've got a nice car, why haven't we? They've got this, why haven't we? That is the type of jealousy I'm talking about here, which is not the same as vindictiveness. And then there is the grudges and the revenge. If you're one of these persons and you try to hide from me, I can tell you. Horoscopes can tell you. Whoever is knowledgeable in horoscopes, in astrology, will be able to tell you. that this is the type of person you are, and you need to move away from that. It's very easy saying you need to move away from it. Have you actually tried moving away from it? It's difficult, isn't it? In terms of financial side of it, the financial side of it, it says to me that your maternal aunties and uncles, your servants, your workers, and also your enemies may be a gain to you. How can servants and workers be gain? Just think about the last recession that we are still coming out of. How many employers turned around to their employees and said, look guys, we have a choice. You work with me or you don't work with me. You work with me, we can build our business. I haven't got money to pay you enough. You'll have to either survive on what you're being paid or even take a cut. But when things get better, I'll remember you the way you remember me. That's where workers come in. That's where servants come in. That's where enemies come in. Some enemies want to be your friends. Like I said last time, no individual is totally hateable. You can't hate a person. You can hate one or two aspects of that individual. It's up to you to make that move and get around it. Or else never speak to that person ever. And regret not speaking to that person. Regret not keeping up with a friendship in time to come. Do you wish sometimes you had continued that friendship? You want to continue. You want to go back, but that little ego comes into it. Why should I? It's their turn to come. They are the ones who spoilt it. Well, you know, it's only a short life. You want to enjoy it. You want to make the most of it. And in order to make the most of it, if that enemy needs to be groveled to and say, hi, forget the past. Let's build on it. Who do you think is a better person? That's the enemies. That's where the income from the enemies we're talking about. Whether you are up to it or not, your horoscopes can tell me that. And where you're likely to spend this money, your illnesses. A lot of people work and earn money and save money and do that, and don't go out, don't do things, don't do that. Eventually they will start spending that money on their illnesses, buy medicines. You will spend money on jobs, finding one after the other. You might be inclined in terms of stealing or thieving from others. You could be the type of person getting into debt every so often. Even when money comes your way, you want to get in debt with them. You want to do lots of things. Misunderstanding with your brothers or sisters, but primarily your brothers. That misunderstanding can lead to, I don't talk to my brother, I don't talk to any of my family at all. I don't like them. No. Have you thought about it for a minute? There could be small misunderstanding that could be overcome. Well, there is a way if one wants it. I'm not saying every single time it's possible, but it's worth a try. What's stopping you? And that, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, brings us to the halfway to this. The time now is coming on 20 minutes to 4, and we have a lot to take on to. So the second half of this we will carry on the next session, but today I want to go on to something totally different that we carried on last time, and I must finish what we continued the time before, and that was I was talking to you about religion, I was talking to you about God, and I told you a story about time, and that today, in this day with 100 years of lifespan, all you remember God once a day, and you're still switching off because you think talking of God for an atheist is no. Hear me out for a bit and I think you will understand. Let me tell you a little story. There used to be a king long time ago, and that king ruled the world, and I mean literally ruled the world. He had everything that he wants, anything, and he just has to ask and he gets it. The only thing he did not have is any children, and for that he married and got married again and got married again, and he had 16,108 wives. A lot of wives, yeah? I think so. But he still couldn't have one child. In those days there used to be a lot of saints, genuine saints around, and one of these guys was going past this. They had the foresight, they knew what was going to come, but this saint needed to go and visit this king. So he visited the king, and the king looked after him, invited him, sit down, enjoy yourself, you clean yourself up, freshen yourself, have something to eat, and after that, once you settle down, come into my palace and we will talk. And I want to discuss some important matters with you. So the saint freshened himself up, put new clothes on. He came along and he was offered a nice seat. And the king was asked, tell me, what is it that you want from me? The king said, all I want is one child. I've got everything. I rule the world. Everybody's pleased with me. Every citizen is pleased with me. There's no one around who can be my enemy. But I don't have any children. I just want one child. That's all. So the saint says, I'll tell you what we'll do. I will give you this fruit. Small. You feed that fruit to the most beloved of your wives. How do you select the most beloved out of 16,108 wives? Is the question. Anyway, he selects one and he feeds her that one fruit. And lo and behold, what happens in time to come? A child is born in the household. Everybody's happy. Holidays, parties, enjoyment. So much so that the king forgot that he had responsibilities to his citizens. And years just rolled by. 5-6 years went by. Two of his queens got together and decided that this is unfair. Why should that woman have had children whereas we were also equally close to king. So those two decided to poison the child, and the child died. The saint had said to him at that time, "You will not be happy," but he was not the one to let go the opportunity of having a child. He would not listen one word of what unhappiness would be. And the saint had repeatedly told him, "Please don't have any children, you will be unhappy." But I hadn't listened to him at that time. Now he was unhappy because his child was no longer. The body was there, but it's just the body. So what do we do? In that he waits there and waits there and waits there, and the body, before it starts to decay, that saint happened to come along with an elderly saint. They were walking past. He says, "I gave a fruit to this king a long time ago and told him that you will have a child." I told him he was not going to be very happy. Let's go and see whether he's still happy or unhappy. What? So these two went along together and said, "Well, let's see what's happening." And they went there and they found that the child is no more, but the body is. And when the king saw this saint, he says, "I'm glad you're here. Because what I want my child back." So sorry, mate. No, I have no means to bring the child back. I don't have what it takes. I don't have the kind of power. I have a power to give a life, but I don't have a power to reinstate a life. But the elderly saint here with me, see what he has to say about it. So the king invites him, talks to him, tells him what happened. He says, "Can you bring my child back?" He says, "Well, on one condition. If I bring that soul here, and if that soul agrees to enter this child's body, then you can have your son. But if that turns around, and if that soul turns around and says, no, can do, I'm not coming, you'll have to give up. You will have to do his final rites, his cremation. You will have to perform his cremation. Are you in agreement with that?" Problem, isn't it? If I don't, the child is dead. If I do, may or may not be, but what do I do? So in the end he decides, yeah, okay, at least I have some chance of doing something about it. So he says, yeah, okay, bring the soul around and let's ask him and see what happens. So I bring the soul around and asks the soul, he says, "So your father wants you to go back in there so that he can be happy." And the soul turns around and says, "You know what, Master, I would love to. I would love to get back into this body. The problem is, I've had another father before him, and the one before him, and plenty more before him. But since also I am the father of a number of other children, so therefore I am calling them, and same as the other fathers are. Now what do I do? Where do I draw a line and say, right, I'm going to go please this one and not anybody else? So I'm sorry, but I have to get on with my life, and my life is to move on. I can't go back in that body. the king will have to deal with this body in another way. I just don't have time because it's pressing. I have to move on. And that's when the king realized that there is such a thing as death, and that people do have to die, and that there is no limitation to age. Young die as well as old die. And that's when he gives up his throne and he goes in search for finding out the truth. He finds the stars and the planets and looks for an answer. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how astrology, that is how horoscope was born. His name was Bhrigu. And the Vedic horoscopes are based on that. Let me just go back all over the story one more time, but explain it to you differently. The king is this body. The fruit is the heart. The one primary queen who was fed this fruit is the artery. The two queens that handed poison to the child are the two veins from the left and the right part of the body, feeding the used blood back to the heart for recycling. And the 16,108 are the primary nerves of our nervous system. And that entirety, this body from head to toe, is God. Believe in yourself, and everything else will come to light. Don't believe in yourself, don't believe in your heart, don't believe in the nervous system that's working for you, and everything else will fall apart. That brings the conclusion today, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you very much for listening to me. In the part 3, I'll be coming along explaining to you the rest of the 6 houses, and we will move on to a number of other items. You will also get to know next time why I used my name Hari last time, whereas my real name, for your benefit again, is Basmank Mehta. I am Basmank Mehta, with the assistance of the fantastic services provided by inclusivefm.co.uk. Your questions, your suggestions, your likes via Facebook, via tweet, via any means, or even by email to us on harry@inclusivefm.co.uk would greatly be appreciated. If there is anything at all that you need to know, all you got to do is send me an email. I'm yours, Basmank Mehta. Have a good day.